The story I wanna talk about is the story of Black American identities. You know, I've noticed in United States a lot of black people are going to have identity problems, huge identity problems. One thing the reason I'm saying this is that I've noticed that the situation of who's black in the United States is pretty much not the version which is used in Africa or in many other places where black people live. Looking at black Americans, I've noticed that in the future, black people in the United States, black Americans might lose their identity altogether. They might end up losing their identity completely. You know, your identity and your existence in America might end up becoming erased, deleted for good. And it's not even too far, it's almost 2 or 3 decades from now. You might end up having a huge identity crisis. One thing I've looked at in United States, I've noticed that the version in America, if black Americans were to say that, who's black in America, I've looked at black Americans and the so-called who's black in the United States and noticed that the version of American black, is the most disturbing version I've never seen. I've listened to many people in America who were thinking of themselves as, which identity should they claim? One thing I've looked at, the version of who's black in America, it's in the future it's going to create a lot of problems. Or for black people, it's going to create not only problems, but black people are going to they're not only going to lose their identity, but they're pretty much going to be erased or erase themselves. Or they're going to be sort of like self-extinct, because the version of a person who's black in the United States is not necessarily the same version used in Africa, in which you have to have come from two black parents. In the United States, when I looked at who's black in the United States, I've noticed that it's a very disturbing problem that I've noticed. In the United States, a person who's considered black, they're using the so-called DNA type thing. If you have got a black ancestor or a DNA of which belong to Africa, you are black. That version, I looked at it as that's a very disturbing type condition to determine black people. Even if you want to look at it from a global scale, you don't say, well, anyone with the Caucasian DNA is white. But the version they use, especially towards black people, is to say anyone with the black DNA is black. That's not the same thing which is used in Africa. In Africa, you have to have two black parents. You have to have a black mother and a black father. Point blank, you understand? Or you must have two black parents. Or you must be black. Pretty much they put it like that. You must be black. The way you are in Africa, to be considered black, you must be black. Have two parents black, or be black looking. You must be completely black. And the version which is used in America is the black in terms of DNA. That means any Caucasian looking person could come in with the 2% DNA and say, well, I've got 2% DNA, that means I'm black. That's what I see in America. And I looked at it and said, this type of thing. Look, one thing black people in America need to understand is this. Black people are going to suffer. Not only that they're going to suffer, but they're going to have a problem to, in terms of who they really are. Because one thing I looked at is how is a black person if you look at the black American families, of why a lot of black people in America, if you look at the condition of black Americans, if you look at black Americans, most black Americans, people we call black today, they've got white ancestors. Pretty much black Americans have got 50-50. They've got half white parents and half black parents. That is the version of black according to America. That's not the version used in Africa. You understand? but that's the version used in the United States. I was looking at the other videos of these brothers who are called the black, black Hebrew Israelites. The so-called, I'll use the word so-called, the so-called black Hebrew Israelites. These are black American brothers who say that, oh, we are not African, oh, we are this and this, we are not African, we are somehow the real Hebrews and things like that. All this kind of shit nonsense which I hear from black American, guys who suffer from some, mental, delusions, calling themselves black Hebrew Israelites. Because majority of black people in America have no idea of who they are. The reason why black people in America, you don't know what you are, is you have to look at your history. You have to look at your history. The looks of black Americans 300 years ago, black people in America looked African. 320 years ago, black people in America looked African. 200 years ago, black Americans looked African. All of them looked African. Even if you look at the black Americans in the picture, look at any historical picture of black Americans. Look at the historical books of black Americans in 200 years ago, 300, all of them looked completely African. Why? Because there was, although there was interbreeding between slave masters and black African female slaves, there was a huge chunk of still black on black relationships. Now, if you look at the historically of black Americans, you would see that, like I say, 320, 200 years ago, 100 years ago, black Americans of 100 years ago looked more African than black Americans today in 2019. If you look at it, the skin tone, on the looks and the features of black Americans 100 years ago, they looked more African. 120 years ago, the way back you go, the more African they look. The forward you look at them, the fast forward to 2019, the more mixed hybrid or Caucasian they look. I was looking at another video of this brother who's called Muhammad Ali. Muhammad Ali, one of the greatest brother I used to love in America, Muhammad Ali. Have you ever checked Muhammad Ali's grandchildren? All of them, if they're walking on the street, you wouldn't believe Muhammad Ali's children. They're all Caucasian, all of them. All of them. I was shocked. I couldn't believe when I was looking at Muhammad Ali, one of the so-called pro-black brother, pro-black brother, like Muhammad Ali. Can you imagine? Just go and look at their offspring. Go and look at the Muhammad Ali's offspring. You would see all of them are Caucasian. All of them Caucasian. And this is why I say, the way back you look, the further back you look, the more African black Americans were. The fast forward, especially today, with an introduction and encouragement of interbreeding, or what they call, what we call today interracial, the explosion of interracial, has resulted in a lot of black Americans losing their identity completely. A lot of black Americans, if you look at the black Americans today, majority of black Americans, almost 40% of black Americans, 40% of black Americans don't have black families. 40%. That means in the future you are going to be 50% white and 50% black. And in further, in 10 or 20 decades, you end up having 60% mixed. And if you look at America, relationships of black on black are now becoming fewer. Black families, completely full-blown black families, are becoming fewer, less and less and less. That means majority of black people are going to be less black, and more mixed up, or further Caucasian you look. That's what black people are going to be. So in the future, to the brothers who call themselves the black Hebrew Israelites, you need to check your history, man. I was looking at black Americans and looking at them and realizing these black Hebrew Israelites, you have no idea of your history, man. Most of you brothers, you need some college research. You need to research your history. Because a lot of black people in America, your version of what you call black is not the international version of what black is. International version is the black on black. It's black mother, black father, black child. You understand? Now in America, they don't use that version. You see what I'm saying? So what I want to say, to the black Hebrew brothers who have got this mentality that, oh, we're not African. You need to understand, majority of the word Africa itself is the name of the continent. Black people inside have got different tribes. Africa is the name of the continent. America is the name of the continent. Canada, all these are name of the continent, or what you call landscape. American is those who are born inside. Canadian is those who are born inside. African, those who are born in the land called Africa. It does not necessarily mean black people in Africa. Very few of them use the word African. In fact, in Africa, a lot of black people have got tribes like Zulus, Xhosas, Igbos, Khoisan, and Sutus, Maasai, and so forth and so forth. They've got tribes. But on this video, I just want to give you an example. I was looking at a video of these other brothers who are called the black Hebrew Israeli brothers, who were claiming that, oh, we're not African. Oh, we're not African. We're real black Hebrew Israelites. Most of these black, these brothers are, I wouldn't say they're so stupid, but, they're too dumb to be stupid. They just need a lot of, I don't like people with extremely low IQs. You know what I'm saying? I don't appreciate someone with the IQ systems lower than, too low. You must present. If you want to debate with someone or debate on a panel, you must present at least a certain standard of your IQ. The IQ is your brain. IQ is the maximum brain processing power. Your brain, how far and quick your mind or your brain process a given situation. Majority of the so-called black Hebrew brothers, their IQ level is too low to understand. It's too low. One thing they don't understand is that, remember, I want to tell you something. I've noticed what they've got. They've got this mentality of looking down at Africans and looking down at at black people in Africa, simply because, you see, black Hebrew Israelites brothers are not aware that the version of who's black in America is not only that it's not correct, is 1000% wrong. Not only correct, wrong. Why I say that? And irrelevant. You understand? The version of who's black in America is a fabricated version. That means any child born with people who are not black, a person who might come from Sweden, the father might come from Sweden, Denmark, Germany, or any European country, any Asian country, any Chinese, Japanese, Arab. All these males might come from this region, then impregnate a black female. That child is considered black. That's the condition in America. That's how the word black is conducted in the United States. Do you really think that's the way it is in the continent? That anybody could come and impregnate a black woman, then the child is black? You see, this is the version used in America. This is why a lot of black people in America are completely messed up and screwed up here, because the version you are using, you have to think. If I was to say anybody with the DNA of Europe, anybody with the DNA of Europe is white, that means every black American man and female would be considered European or white. You see how wrong, and I wouldn't say disgusting, but how wrong and completely debauched, irrelevant, and not only outdated, but completely ridiculous it is to use the version. This is why in America, the slave masters back then during slavery, they used the version: one drop, you are black. Whose drop it is? If you were to use a drop and say anyone with a drop of white, millions of over 42 million European, over 42 million whites in America had an African grandmother and slaves. Majority of them are quadrants. A quadrant is a black person like Mariah Carey. Black people who have, if you mix a mixed race person, a mixed or a biracial person, mix a biracial person with a white person, they produce a Caucasian looking kid. You understand what I'm saying? Now, using that mentality which was used in America. In America, that's why they say one drop. That means almost 42 million Europeans in America, or whites in America, could be considered black using that version. Now, if you put it, let's twist it the opposite. Any person with European DNA, should they be declared white? Any person with it, if you declared reverse in reverse, do you think Europeans would accept black Americans? All of them from big and small to as Caucasian children? Because then realistically, that's the version used in America. That's why a lot of black people in America are seriously confused here and suffer from identity problems, because what they've been telling you, that's not the way you are supposed to be. The way you have been taught, that's not the correct way you're supposed to be. There's no way someone is going to use that version. A person can have a Chinese or a Japanese father, and the mother is black, and all of a sudden you're African American. Is your father from Africa? No, the father is from Japan. How did you become African American? Oh, because that's what America says. This is how black Americans are. This is why you see black Americans, I said, this is why black Americans are going to have identity crisis in the future. Because the version in which they call themselves who's black is not the correct version. You can't use that as an identity. You can't say everybody with Chinese DNA is from China. Everybody with the European DNA is European. Everybody with the black DNA. That's why India is blacker than black America today. Is there anybody in Africa claiming India? No. There are 500 million darker Indians there who are way blacker than modern day black Americans. Why do I say modern day black Americans? Because modern day black Americans are extremely mixed up. A lot of black Americans are almost 40% European, 30% European, 20% European, 25%. Most black Americans are almost too, someone said, use the word too white to be black. There are so many black people in the United States who are now too white to be black because of increase in so-called interracial thing. Because mixed people married to Caucasian mixed people, they produce Caucasian children. You understand what I'm saying? So this is why a lot of black Americans are going to have a lot of identity. Not only that, are going to have identity, but are going to be sort of like, bred out. You know what is called bred out? Bred out is when you lose your melanin color completely. You could still have black features. You know what I'm saying? Like what the so-called Latinos. Most Latinos are not aware in the Latino world. 90% of slaves, 90% of slaves or enslaved Africans during slavery were taken and put into South American countries. 90% were put in South American countries. The natives were wiped out, and black people were introduced to work for sugar plantations in the American South and southern countries in Brazil, in South America. As a result, the natives were being wiped out to prevent them from rebelling. So European settlers wiped out the natives and introduced black people from Africa. This is how the remaining natives interbred with black people. And majority of so-called Latinos are not aware that they're quadroons. Most Latinos look like what they call these Mariah Carey and Beyonce. They look similar to that. But they're not aware that because in the Latino world, they didn't use the word one drop you're black. You understand? It's only in America in which the so-called one drop you're black. Other than that, the South American countries, they were not using the one drop. In fact, they were using the one drop white, you are not black. They were using the opposite. Any person who was mixed race, or what you call mulatto or biracials, they were not considered black. Once a person was mixed, they were no longer considered black. You are considered, now you are moving closer to white, who are going to call you, they use different terms, in depicting mixed people. They didn't use the version which was used in America. You understand? The so-called one drop rule. You understand? So as a result, most of the biracials of the Latino world do not embrace the African or black side. They embrace the European side which they have, because historically in these countries they were told you are much better now. You are better off. At least you're moving in the right direction. The more Caucasian you look, the better you are treated. So as a result, a lot of black people in the Latino world were encouraged to breed with further Europeans to produce white babies. This is why if you go to the Latinos were are mostly, the Latin world is the anti-black world in the Latino, because black people in these regions were encouraged to the extent that majority of them lost the melanin. They still have got black features, lips, body size, booty, things of that nature. They still have got that because they're mixed with the black. Most of them if you look at a lot of black people in the Latino world, in Barbados, Caribbeans, and in the Latino world, including Brazil, a lot of black people in those regions are mixed hybrids. They're quadrons. Quadrons, a quadron, it's a mixed person. It's what they call a quadrons, or many people call quadroons or quadrons, are a biracial plus white. You produce a quadron. A person who's too black, a person who's too white to be black, is called a quadron. Black people who look like Mariah Carey. You understand? In America, they still call a person like that black, because that was, I'll do a different video on the reason why, or why Europeans, settlers, or call people like Mariah Carey black, or why they, wanted to, why they called mixed children black. Most of them, it was sort of like protecting of white truth supremacy and things of that nature. But I'm going to do a separate video about that. But when I'm just want to stick to this video, I want to stick to the reasons why a lot of black people in America are going to have problems. I've listened and looked at videos of black people who were called the Hebrew Israelites, or black people who call themselves the Hebrew Israelites. That those brothers are, suffer from a lot of mental sickness. They have no idea. If you look at the history of black people in America, black people of today in America look nothing like black people in 100 years ago or 150 years ago. Black people 150 years ago, go and look at any historical book, any history book in the United States. You look at the black Americans of 200 years ago, 100 years ago, 150 years ago, all of them looked African. All of them would fit into Africa. Easy. Look at the book, including Garvey and all that. Look at all the black Americans of 100 years ago. They looked completely, undisputedly African. Unquestionably African. Black Americans of 100 years ago, 200 years ago, 300 years ago, 400 years ago, all of them looked African. Even if you look at the books, just check the books, the historical books, all of them looked 100% African. They looked unquestionably African. If you fast forward today now, with huge intermixing now, with the black people breeding with almost everybody, an explosion that has resulted in a lot of black people getting confused. You understand? Because most of them no longer come from black. They're actually coming from, one parent is black, one parent is Japanese, one parent is Swedish, Italian, Denmark, Germany, England, Australian, Canadian. All the parents come from those regions. They just have to breed with someone black, and the child is declared black. This is what is resulted into this is what is going to create a completely black extinction, because this is not the traditional way black people are produced. You understand? This is not the traditional way black people are produced. I cannot say everyone mixed with Japanese is Japanese. Everyone with the DNA of Japan is Japanese. This is what they use, especially for black people. They don't use it to any other race. If you look at any other race, no one said any person mixed with Mexico is Mexican. You mix a black person and a Mexican, they say the child is black. A black person and a Japanese, the child is black. A black person and European or Chinese, Arabs, and anybody who they mix with black people, they declare the child black. And this is how black people are considered in America. These are the conditions and the circumstances in which the identity of black people, this is how they create this fake illusion of black identity, which is not necessarily the case. Now, if you continue this process, generation after generation after generation, you are going to end up with the black people looking like Mariah Carey, not even Mariah Carey, you're going to end up with people with just no black melanin whatsoever. Just features or European skin and black features, and the DNA will be inside. They will be like, I'm 2% black, I'm 5% black, I'm 7% black. And the word black will be easily to remove. You understand? Because this is the conditions I highlighted. That this is why black people in America are going to have a very problem in the future. Identity crisis. Majority of you are going to have an identity crisis. Because I was looking at a black woman, the other time I was looking at a black woman, she had 2 children, and the father was Italian. Then I said, what are these children? Which identity are these children? And she said, well, my children are black. And I was like, who is the father black? No, she said, oh, the father is Italian. And I said, why is these children take the identity of a black man as if the black man sleep with you? Why do they take the identity of black when the fathers are not black? This is how America declare who's black. They only say any race of men from anywhere on planet, they just have to breed with a black woman and the child will be declared black. Is that the way black people are produced? No, exactly. Think of a situation: a Chinese, Japanese man sleep with a black woman, the child is black. Notice, no black man, zero, no black man. The father is Chinese, the father is Mongolian, the father is Japanese, the father is Arabic, the father is European, the father is Mexican, the father is from Guatemala, the mother is a black female. The mother is a black female, and the child is declared black. Where is the black man? Where is the black man? Zero. This is the version used in America. This is the version I looked at and I said, this is a very toxic, dangerous version. You cannot declare someone like that. If you continue like that, that's equivalent to say everybody is now black. If you use that version, then let's say, if you use that version and say, this is the version, since I looked at America, this is how America, or this is the version used in America. Now, using that version, is a Caucasian man black? No. Is a Japanese man black? No. Why is that their children are declared black only if they sleep with a black female? If they breed with a black woman, are their children black? You understand what I'm saying? So this is the version I noticed used in America. And I looked at that version and I said, this version is it's kind of a tricky, disturbing style. You understand? Because if you use that version, would you say, well, we don't need all Japanese men, we just need the Japanese female to produce Japanese children? The females can sleep with anybody anywhere, and the children will be declared Japanese. Would you really think that is the version in Japan they're going to accept? A child has to have a Japanese DNA and they'll accept it. See, a lot of black people don't put thoughts into why people use this version. This type of schemes, back in the days, they were used in case brothers are not around. In the event that we don't have brothers anymore, the females should be taught and encouraged to declare their children black when breeding with anybody else. These are the conditions of slaves, of enslaved female. In the event the males die, the females should be encouraged to breed further with slave master, and then the children, and she would accept the children as black in the event that the brothers are no longer there. That's why they created this scheme. This scheme was created conditionally. You understand? It was not necessarily it's not something you should use. It's not a version a modern day black man and black female should accept. You understand what I'm saying? If you think here, think of it in reverse. Do you think that any black man here can just sleep with anyone, white or a white female? Do you think they would accept the children as white simply because the child is going to be born with white DNA? Do you think they will accept it as a European? No, exactly. If I sleep with a Japanese woman, the child born, do you think Japanese people accept it as Japanese? No, they won't. Anywhere else they won't. Why do you think black people? Because you need to understand your history. why black people were forced to do. You have to check your history. The reasons are, you check the history, you will understand why they declared that. You should not use that version in modern day. Okay, you should not use modern day. They were using that in the event that enslaved men won't breed with the enslaved female. So now slave masters and their children were the ones which were going to breed to produce further slaves with the enslaved female. So the enslaved female must be encouraged, that they're going to produce black people. You understand with the slave master. So this enslaved female had to be encouraged. One way of encouraging these slave masters to continue breeding with slave master was to tell them that the children will be declared black. The children will be black, and this was the schemes they used. And I don't think a modern day black person should use that. But fast forward to the point I was saying, I was listening to these black Hebrew Israelite brothers who were saying, oh, we are not African, blah, 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 we're not African. I said, man, you need to be careful. Because back in the days, 400 years ago, your black grandmothers were breeding with Europeans. So if you want to know your identity, you could be a black European child. Your forefathers are European. That's another thing which a lot of black American men, even today, if you trace your DNA from your father's side, it goes to Europe. A lot of black American people, almost 99% of black Americans, your forefathers, your forefathers would stitch you back to European slave master. Back. You understand? Because a lot of you black people in America, you have no idea how far the interbreeding of slave masters by force to the enslaved females. You are not aware. It was slave masters and their sons who were mostly producing slaves. This is why I say you need to be careful, especially when you are dissing a lot of black people in Africa. Oh, we're not African. Well, you must be careful. Already you are carrying the surname of your slave master. You are already carrying the surname of your slave master. And you have no idea. You understand what I'm saying? But, like I say, the issue I wanted to say is the point of black Americans who are dissing African. Oh, I'm not African. Oh, I'm not this. I said, man, you must be very careful. Oh, what Native Americans don't have features like me. No. Native Americans, a lot of black people are too mixed. That's why they think, oh, I'm Indian, I'm this, because you are mulattoes. A mulattoes could easily be, see, if a person is mixed, you could easily fit into any other mixed race already. Mexican, a biracial person like Mariah Carey, she could easily fit into Mexico. She could fit into the Middle East Arab. She could fit into any other cultures which is not black, but she knows she's not those cultures, but she's from black people. You understand? There's a lot of black people in America who are too mixed to be black. A lot of black Americans, they're just too mixed to be black. They now can easily fit into other cultures which are not black. Mexican, Guatemalan, Latinos, because they're already too mixed. If a black man is mixed or is biracial, they fit in easy to those society. But in reality, most of the Latinos are mixed already. They're actually a bunch of quadrants. All of them, they're just quadrants and mixed, quadrants and biracials, quadrants and right. Most of their forefathers were black. Most of their ancestors were Africans, black. But what happens if you lose your melanin? You are left with your features. Because interracial situation always result in children looking completely different from both parents. You understand? But the situation I was just wanted to talk is that the black people in America are going to have a lot of problems on their identity, because the version used for who's black in America is not the correct version. It's not what's supposed to be used. They carried a slave type version, continued to the 21st century today. How can you continue with something which was designed in 1422 to the present day 2019 and still use the same term which is someone invented 1422, 600-700 years ago, and you come with someone and use the same version today? Because this is why a lot of black people are in America confused. You look at the black Americans. If I was to pick any so-called black American person on the street in New York and say, who's your father? One is going to say Italian, another one Swedish, another one German, another one Danish, another one Switzerland, another one Russian, another one Japanese, another one Chinese. And what's your mother? Black. So who are you? Guess what? I'm a black person. I'm a black American. Who's your father? Swedish. What about you? German. What about you? Italian. And your mother? Black American. So who are you? I'm black American. I'm black. How are you black? Your father is not black. How are you black? This is the version used in America today. This is the version. I looked at that version and I said, this is going to create a lot of problems, a lot to the future of black people. Most black people might lose that. This is why black Americans are going to have identity crisis. Majority of them, because they are well aware. These children who are produced in this type of behavior, most of them are well aware the fathers are not black. Why is the so-called black word used when the majority of think of a person who's Japanese, whose father is Japanese, and another one his father is Chinese, and another one his father is German, and another one his father is Russian, and another one his father is Swedish, and then they're declared black, and then they look at their fathers, none of their fathers are black. You see, that's the problem. That's the problem. How can these people be declared black when the father is not black? Imagine if I was the one sleeping with a Russian woman. Will the Russian woman just say, well, the child has got a Russian DNA, so let's declare the child Russian? They'll never do that. Why is that? When it comes to black people, this is what it's used. You understand? It's almost like erasing black men out of the picture and just using the female. You understand? Because if you use that definition, that means if I was to call you, is a Caucasian person, is a Caucasian man black? No. Is a Japanese man black? No. Is a Chinese man black? No. Is a Danish man black? No. Is a Swedish man black? No. Is an Australian man black? No. They're all Caucasian and Japanese and Asian and Arabs and shit like that. Why is that their children are declared black when they sleep with a black female? Why is that their children are declared black when the fathers are not black? And I looked at it and said, will they accept this in reverse? That a black man can sleep with any female and that child will be declared according to the female. See, naturally in Africa, children take the identity of the father. This is what it is in Africa. All races outside America, children take the identity of the father. You understand? But in America, they tend to put the identity of the mother if she's black. A Caucasian person can sleep with look at this, if a Caucasian person sleep with a white female, okay? If a white man sleep with a white female, the child is white. The same white man can sleep with a black woman. Then the child from a black woman, that one is declared black, even though the father is not black. Then I said, that's a problem, man. That shouldn't be like that. The father is not a black man, but the child is going to be declared black from the same father? No. How can a Japanese man or a European man or a Japanese or a Chinese man sleep with a Chinese woman? That child is Chinese. But when they sleep with a black female, the child from a black woman is declared black, as if it's a black man's responsibility. I looked at things that I said, this is a problem. But this is the condition of black America. This is the condition of how black Americans are declared black. This is the condition where they come from. This is the pedigree of who's black in America. This is the circumstances which have been created in America. But if you look at it on a global scale and on a logical world, that's wrong. That's not the case. That's not how it's supposed to be. But a lot of black people in America have no idea. They carried these things from the slavery up to the 21st century. And I looked at it and said, no, that's not the correct. You should not use that version. Because if you use that version, you end up getting it sort of like exterminated in the long run. Because someone is just saying, well, you end up existing in DNA. And many people are just like the Native American Indians. Native American Indians were all wiped out. If you look at many Native American Indians of the past year, 200 years, 300 years, and look at the so-called Native Americans of today, nobody's Native Indian in America today. Nobody. Because what happens to Native Indians is that the settlers, the European settlers, killed off the Native Indian males. Then they interbred with the female, wiping up Native Indians completely. Zero. There's no Native Indians in America today. Same thing applies to Australian Aborigines, the Native Australian Aborigines, males wiped out. Then they interbred with the native female, and today you won't see any native altogether. You can't use that version. You understand? You have to think logically. You have to think logically. If you take a Maasai female and a father from Germany or Denmark, you think they're going to produce a Maasai baby who's going to look like the native Maasai? No, exactly. This is what happened. I was listening to another guy who was a Native American guy who was called who's this Russell Means. He was preaching. He was telling that on another video I was watching. And I was like, man. He said, well, back in the days, there were almost over 20 million native Indians. And by 1930 or 40, there was pretty much people moved from 20 million to less than a million. And from there to the present day to just roughly 200,000. And those so-called 200,000 are no longer real native Indians. They're already of mixed, most of them no longer look native Indians altogether. You go to America today and start looking, where are native Indians? You're not going to see them. Look at the pictures of the past native Indians and the present, you realize, they're all gone. Exterminated, gone. Completely extinct. You cannot live in a DNA. You have to be careful with the titles you put. You cannot just call something which is completely different. You can't call, look, if you mix a lion and a baboon, what is born there, you can't call it a lion or a baboon. Because if you call it a baboon, you are going to lose a baboon. If you call it a lion, in the future, you're going to lose a lion. The creature you produce in the middle must take a different name. But what is happening in America, they choose to say, well, let's choose to call it this. You mix a lion and a tiger, you produce a liger. You don't say what is produced is a lion. No. Because if you do like that and you keep mixing, you end up losing lions and you end up losing tigers altogether. You understand? And the creature you produce in the middle is not going to produce the original one, the real natives. That's the thing I was looking into America. And I listened to this brother Russell Means, this so-called native Indian American. He was preaching about this. He said majority of native Indians today no longer, they're all wiped out. You understand? They're all gone. They now live in DNA. I'm 2% native Indian. Can you imagine if I look at the way I look today? Imagine if I was to tell you, look at the way I look today. Imagine if I was to tell you I'm 2% Japanese. Do you think in Japan they would accept me because I'm 2% Japanese? Or if I was to say I'm 10% Chinese, do you think in China they would accept me? You need to understand this is exactly the version used in America. And I look at that version and say, this is a dangerous version. How can people use such ridiculous type things? You can't use a DNA and just say, living in a DNA. One drop you're black, one drop you're black. What if you lose all the features of black people? And people start coming born completely Caucasian, all of them, with some 2% African DNA. Are you going to call them Africans? No. This is why in Africa they don't use that version. But when I look at the black Americans, that's the version black Americans are using. It's quite a disturbing mentality to see people using a version which they're not supposed to. You have to learn and think, why were they invented this so-called one drop? How can anybody breed with a black woman and their children be declared black even if the fathers are not black? Even if the fathers are not black. That's ridiculous. You understand? You have to look at it in a logical, mindful, and think this thing could have future impact. You have to be mindful and think in the long run this type of schemes might create a negative impact. Self-destructive extinction type thing. You go to America today, there's no native Indians. But if you say to someone, who's Native American, you see a lot of Caucasian looking people saying, I'm Native American. A lot of Caucasian people looking at I'm Native American. And you look at the person you are like, and then look at the pictures of the real Native Indians of the past 200 years ago. Look nothing the same. You see, it's the same thing if you look at the black Americans. If you look at the black Americans you see today, most of them are too mixed to be black. They're completely changed. And then you look at the black Americans 100 years ago. Just look at the picture of a black American 100 years ago. Look at the picture of any black American 100 years ago, 150. Black Americans 100 years ago, 150, 200 years ago. all of them looked African, unquestionably African. You should look at the picture, you're like, are these in Africa or in America? I was looking at pictures of black Americans 200, 300 years ago, 200 years, 100 years ago. All of them looked completely 100% African. But then fast forward, 2019, some of them will look quadroons, completely too white to be black, too white to be black. And in the future, they're going to be completely, you're not going to have any melanin inside. You understand what I'm saying? That's why I was just saying, you know, to a lot of brothers there, the version of your identity, this is what creates it. This is how black Americans are going to find themselves in this problem. You understand me? Because of how you are considered black and the conditions on why they consider you black, and I would say the process of declaring a person who's black in America is not the correct process. You cannot say anyone can breed with a black woman, they're going to produce black children. No. That is not the correct. That's not supposed to be. But guess what? That is the condition used in America. That's why a lot of black people are going to have a lot of identity problem. You know, they're going to have an identity problem because a child who really knows his father is Swedish, how is that person going to embrace black? How are they going to be told, oh, you're black, when they in reality they know the father is not black? See, this is what is used in America. If you go to America, you'll be surprised. This is exactly what they use. This is exactly what is used in America. Is that the case used in Africa? No. In America, that is what is used. That's why in America, black people in America are going to have identity problems. Because there's no way you could have an Italian father and still be told you are black. It's like someone saying, just pretend to be black, when in reality you know you're not. Just to pretend to be. You understand? Can you imagine just pretend to be? But anyway, I just wanted to mention this video. You know, for those brothers who want more type knowledge of thinking, subscribe to my channel, and you know, put a comment of whatever you want us to discuss or talk, whether we go live or whatever. Subscribe. You can put a point you want here. You know what I'm saying? I just mentioned this thing for now, but if you want further knowledge, you know, you can comment on what you want us to talk, what points you want us to talk. You can suggest in any comment, you can comment there, and subscribe to my channel. With that said, God bless America, and God bless everybody else. And you know what I'm saying? Like what we say is, you know, it's not what America does for you which matters. It's what happens to you if you fuck up. That's exactly what I say. It's not what America does for you which is important. It's what happens to you in life if you fuck up. And that's what you need to understand. It's what happens to you in life if you fuck up. That's what matters. Anything else is subject to speculation. With that said, please, God bless America and me. Goodbye.